Hello, this is a brief introduction into marketing, specifically B2B products, branding, types of retailers. So, this is Marketing by McGraw-Hill Publications of 2024. I do not own anything in this presentation. I am not sponsored by any of the brands that are in this presentation. There will be a link at the end to give you all of the detailed notes, but please feel free to pause between as needed. So for B2B marketing, this is a process of buying and selling goods or services to be used for consumption or for resale, thinking like GE, Levi's, IBM, Ford, or UPS. So we are going to be looking into the B2B markets. First would be looking at manufacturers and service providers, then resellers, like wholesale versus distribution, institutions, hospitals, schools specifically something like textbooks, and then government is one of the biggest purchasers of goods and services. So there are several steps in that B2B process. First being that need recognition, discovering there's an internal and external source that's unfulfilled. After that is considering alternative solutions that are needed, requesting a proposal, which is that RFP process, which you're looking for bids. You are then looking at the buying organizations that you have gotten responses for and narrowing down. You're going to be placing the order with the supplier or multiple suppliers, and then deciding if you want to keep that vendor moving forward. So next we're going to be looking into the roles of the buying center. There are 6 of them, and we will be going into those in just a second. So just going to touch on the roles in the buying center and using a hospital procedure as an example. So the initiator would be the doctor, the influencer be the medical device supplier, decider would be the hospital they do the who, what, when, where, why. The buyer is probably going to be some sort of manager who has that authority. The user is going to be the patient, and ultimately the gatekeeper is going to be the insurance company. So there are 3 types of buying situations. First is new buy. It's going to be the longest process since you're doing it for the first time. You have a modified rebuy, which is you're starting with the same order, making some changes, and then a straight rebuy is just reordering the same thing again with no change. So real quick on B2B and media, you are going to want to be able to stay in contact. There are dashboards to help with that. Being connected is very important. So professional things like LinkedIn or some less professional social media sites can be helpful. And then making sure you're using promotional techniques that also have educational content as well can be helpful. All right. And to the next section, which is products and branding. Moving into types of consumer products, it is just going to be the products that are being used for personal use. Um, in short, you have specialty products like luxury cars, shopping products like furniture, convenience products like bread, milk, and eggs, and then unsought products, which are things that you don't know exist, maybe that's something that you may actually need. So product mix versus the product line is going to be the difference of the variety of products offered versus the grouped associated items. The opposite is going to be the negative impact of having too many options. So the solution here is going to be either to increase or decrease the types of categories that are in the specific line, or to increase and decrease the amount of variety of those lines. All right, into branding. Thinking about all those names, logos, symbols, characters, slogans, jingles, all those fun things that get stuck in your head. Companies live or die by that brand awareness. You can't buy it if you don't know it exists. This is a way for firms to differentiate between the products being offered by them versus their competition. Snapple versus Tropicana. If you want to read through this, I suggest pausing it. It's just an example of brand elements in the descriptions. Same thing here. Top ranked companies, what they're worth from 2020 and 2022. So moving into brand equity is the value of the brand. The awareness is how much you know about the brand. The perceived value is that relationship between benefit and cost. And then that brand association is that link between the brand and its attributes. That's what you think about. Um, with that, on the other side of things, is some brands become so predominant in particular markets that they just become synonymous with itself. Big example would be like Kleenex and tissue. A Kleenex is a tissue, but a tissue is not a Kleenex. Over time, if companies are not careful, that brand name trademark will dilute and lose value over time. So for brand loyalty, it's just going to be when you are repeatedly buying the same product or service from the same supplier instead of different ones within that category. That loyalty does give a source of value for the firm and isn't important. For example, you have like hotels and airlines that give you like points to be redeemed. Sometimes you have those with certain stores, etc. Marketing costs are typically less with brand loyalty because they know you'll use that positive word of mouth and do some of that marketing for them. This does insulate the firm from competition since loyal customers don't typically switch brands. So just wanting to clarify the different types of brands. You have manufacturer and national brands. This would be things like Kraft, Nike, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Sony, KitchenAid, that are developed by the manufacturer and they ensure quality and the same standard of things. Then you have like retail store brands, so Kroger, Target, Walmart, and so forth. Then there's family brands and individual brands. So on family, the firm owns the name brand and produces everything under that. Individual brands use a specific brand for each specific product. Kraft does this really well since Jello and Oscar Mayer and Planters and Philadelphia are all individual brands, but they are technically all owned by Kraft. So brand extensions and line extensions. So on the brand extension, you're using the same name brand and adding products into it, thinking like Colgate and Crest, originally toothpaste, and all the other oral hygiene things came in under that same thing. Then you have a line extension. A good example of this is going to be products that complement the current products that they have to increase sales. So like Frito-Lays or Tostitos, they are chips, but they've also created dips, so they go together. So additional important branding terms is your brand dilution, your co-branding, your brand licensing, think video games, Star Wars, sports, Disney, etc. And then you have rebranding. Aunt Jemima into the Pearl Milling Company is a good one. Similar package, so it still gives you that bit of nostalgia, but they don't have as much heat as they did, which was the reason for the rebranding in the first place. All right, types of retailers. So this is going to be when choosing retail partners, manufacturers are looking at the basic channel structure where their target market customers are expecting to find those products, the channel member characteristics, and the intensity of that distribution. A little bit more information on that distribution intensity. It is divided into three category types. So your intensive is going to be things like Pepsi, P&G, Kraft, etc. You have exclusive, so this is going to be things like Coach, and then finally selective is going to be kind of this middle ground. So the specifics on types of retailers, they fall into either food, general merchandise, and service. There is so much to go over in this. I really hope you pull up the written notes. So food is going to be like supermarkets. You're going to have under general merchandise things like drugstores, department stores, and then services. You're going to be looking into auto repairs, health spas, banks, and things like that. Section is going to be this omni channel. So adding in additional options to get more selection, to get more personalization, and to expand that market presence is going to give you the most into your marketing options. The more out there you are, the better. All right, just a huge shout out again. Thank you for putting up with me. I do not own rights or sponsored by anybody from this presentation. There is a link on this screen. There will be a hyperlink in the description to be able to get notes. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck with everything.